What's up, folks? Casual Dad here, and I'm going to do an actual basic introduction to Warhammer Combat Cards. Warhammer Combat Cards is a card collecting competitive game, a deck building competitive game, excuse me, and it's based in the Warhammer 40,000 game universe, based on Games Workshop's tabletop game. And we're going to jump right in here so you can see what it looks like and see if you want to keep going. So it's turn-based, and again, you build a collection of cards that you then build into a deck that you can then compete head-to-head. Whenever you play a game, it can be unranked or ranked, and if you choose to do either one, you'll play against other players' decks, but it's actually an AI that plays them, which is kind of nice. So like the timing is always really very flexible, forgiving, because the other player is an AI. They don't necessarily play the deck well, but you never have to wait for another player to make the move. There's no one intentionally timing out on you. It's very nice. So as you can see, you start with an initial hand of 3 random bodyguards from your deck. Each deck has anywhere between, I believe, 3 and 9 cards with a warlord, and then anywhere between 2 and 8 bodyguards. And each warlord has a different cost associated, shown in the top left. Every card has a different cost associated. They've got hit points on the top right. They've got 3 possible attack stats with ranged, psychic, and melee, and then each one has a specific faction as well. So you can see the back of this card has the symbol at the top and has a different border denoting that it is from the Space Marines faction. Any veterans of Warhammer will notice that this is an Ultramarine as well. This is Captain Akaran. That's his attack stats, that's his health, his cost. If you want to see some kind of flavor text about him, you can see it on the back here. Also shows his keywords that do apply to campaigns, and then also shows his initiative value here, with a higher number being a faster card. And then you can see all cards have a set ability. That's what you see here, the symbol right here. He's got shielded, so when he's played, he will resist some damage from up to 3 attacks. And then every warlord also has a warlord ability that applies for the entire game. Some abilities only trigger when they're on the battlefield, others are universal all game long. And this one says the first time a friendly Space Marine card would be destroyed, it instead comes back to life with 5 wounds remaining. So it doesn't count as destroyed, it comes back. And I'm showing Akaran, because he is the starting introductory tutorial warlord you'll see first if you do choose to play this game. Another thing too, each card has a rarity. So right here, this one is rare, denoted with the blue banner, and a level, so he's level 8. And as you collect copies of a card, you can then spend in-game resources to level up that card. And unlike a lot of other games out there, the level of the card actually impacts its stats, so they do get more powerful as they level up, for better or for worse. And then as you play, you are given a hand of 3 of your random bodyguards here, and then you can play them into any one of these 3 lanes. And even after you've played one, as you can see here, you can move them around a bit as you deploy a new card. I'm going to go ahead and counter that fear with fear. All these cards have those abilities that I mentioned, just like the captain. They've got the cost in the upper left, hit points upper right, and then their attack stats. Now this guy's red, showing that he's actually has penalized stats right now because he's up against an enemy card that has fear. And fear is one of those abilities that just will reduce your stats. I'm not going to cover all of the abilities here in detail, I'm just going to kind of run through a game like I said. And then it is turn-based. So right now we just did our first deployment, and because the cards in my opponent's deck had a higher initiative value combined there, he ended up moving first. So we did our deployment, then he got to choose one of the 3 possible attacks, ranged, psychic, or melee, and to perform that attack against me. And whenever you choose an attack type, it'll give you a preview, both the total, so he will hit me back for 32, I will hit him for 74. It's showing as red because these bars above the attack type show what kind of bonus you have. You've got and I'm looking at the top right here, your base is just that full gray bar shown in his melee, and then this blue status can build up as you build up that attack and gain extra bonus. So right now all of mine are debuffed, they're not really, there's no real advantage to using one against the other. And then so I can do Psychic. Psychic, if a card doesn't have an attack ability of that type, so like this guy doesn't have a Psychic attack, it has a ready value. That could be green, where it buffs your own attacks, or it can be red, where it debuffs your opponent's attacks. So I'm going to go ahead and just ready, just cuz. And so you click once to preview what it's going to do, and then you click again to confirm it. So what you saw there is each card did their ready value, which reduced that debuff I had, and then you can see at the end of the turn, whichever attack types you don't use, that gets a slight buff. So these two are a little bit higher than my base starting. Psychic, because I used it, went back to its base starting. And I'm just going here. So the enemy warlord I'm up against is the Avatar. His universal ability is whenever a card dies from any faction, one of the bodyguards currently, or one of the friendly cards currently on the table gets a flat bonus to its melee attack. And that's a universal ability triggering the whole time. So against this deck, I want to be sure to remove all of his bodyguards and not let any of them kind of linger, because if they linger, they will build up attack rapidly. And so here I am. It's pretty close. He does almost the same amount back, but if I look at my values, my 27 is going to kill his 17, my 113 is going to kill his 100, so that will actually, those two cards will be killed before they can attack back. Downside, though, is that this card on the upper left has a high enough attack value to kill my card in return, because he's got that target acquired, which will make all attacks from the opponent target him, and he'll take additional damage. And if a card has a status applied to it, you can click on the card and view that here. So he's got his own Inspire ability that gives every friendly card on the table a flat bonus to all of their attack stats, which is shown here. So he's the one that has the ability, so he shows it there, but then every card impacted by it will show it here. It's funny, he shows it twice. And then this is that targeted that I mentioned. So for the next 2 turns, he will be the primary target, and one of those turns is happening right now. And these abilities also have ranks, and you can see that by the different laurels on it. So this is level 1, Furious Charge, and this is level 3, the larger laurel on it. And this targeted is level 1 too, because it doesn't have the laurels on it. At higher ranks of targeted, it will do additional bonus damage. So I'm going to go ahead and do that melee, because why not? I'm against a heavy melee deck, and so I want to use those melee attacks while... Oh, I forgot about my warlord ability. So that would have killed him, but because my warlord is Akaran, he was saved that one time, so he has to be killed twice, which he will be by that card that just dropped right there. And now you saw that status pop up, so when this card appeared, my fear from this bodyguard applied to it, and then you also saw when my Inspire card died, there was a graphic that showed that my cards lost that inspiration effect. So he has no statuses on him anymore. He still has fear applied because the card opposite him has fear. And so, let's see here, let's do this one. And on this one against Avatar, so I deployed and moved some of my weaker cards over. This guy does have a psychic stat, which is great because my opponent does not have any psychic attack cards. This one has Death Blow. When I kill it, it's going to deal damage to the target across and then all the adjacent cards, so it is going to kill my cheap guy here, but that's totally fine. And then you can see the graphic there that showed that the shield was lost instead of him taking any actual damage. And now you've seen me drawing my bodyguards. Your warlord will always be the last card that appears, so once you're down to your last 3 cards or lower, you'll see that warlord as an option to deploy. You don't have to deploy them last. Some warlords you want to deploy earlier, but for the most part you do kind of want to deploy them last to make sure you don't accidentally lose them quickly, because if your warlord dies, you lose the game, even if you still have scary bodyguards or most of a deck that you could play. So now you can see that shielded status went down because his shields are gone. Go ahead and pop that guy here. And this guy, again, is still the only one on the board that has a psychic attack. So if I choose psychic, I can see that my return damage will be 0, and I'll just get to ready to charge up some future attacks. So that's the best way to go here. In a lot of games, you'll be up against decks where they will hit you back no matter what you do, and so you don't always have that ideal choice where I hit you and take 0 back, or even if my ranged or melee damage were high enough, it would be better for me to use those instead of using the 0 damage return attack. So for example here, I do pretty significant range damage. I could kill this guy on the right, which would be good for me, but in this deck, not necessarily the route I want to take. Especially since I'm preparing, my warlord will possibly drop this game, we're going to see in a minute. Yes, he will, because this bodyguard on the right is going to be... Oh, no, there we go. Extra life. Alright, so I got this, which is always good. You hate to do an introductory stream and then lose. So we'll do this finishing blow with Psychic. Ta-da! So there are a lot of little details to keep track of, but it's a relatively straightforward game that you can learn quickly, and it's pretty enjoyable. And as you play competitively, the challenge does get considerably more difficult, but it's a really interesting puzzle how to play each game, and I personally have been enjoying it a lot. What you can see here is the victory screen. It could say a red banner at the top that says defeat had I lost that, but it didn't. It then shows you a status of how many bodyguard cards you destroyed in addition to the warlord card, and then based on the relative honor rank of the decks that played, you get a certain number of, I forget what these are called, but you get like ranked points in return. So here the base, the minimum you can ever gain is 45 if your deck is rated higher than your opponent's deck. In this match I was slightly, based on the game's ranking system, it was slightly more likely that I would lose than win that game. So I got slightly more than the 45. If you play against a significantly higher rated deck, you can get quite a bit more. So that was a game. I'm going to run through these screens here if you want to see a little bit more about it. The tutorial will be more or less what you just saw, but with some maybe less powerful cards because I've been playing for a while. So you've got your personal status in the top left here. It says your account name, the title that you choose for yourself, and that's all just vanity stuff you can do here. You can have different avatars, different banners, borders around your banner, and then you can have different titles. I chose Black Knight because I kind of like it. And then you also can get card sleeves, and then Warlord frames, which I've got in there too. And those just appear in-game. Other players do see them when they play against your decks, but anytime, most of the time when other players play against you or your decks, they will be seeing an AI play it. And then this also shows your total combined competitive ranks. This is how the ladder works. So each deck is split into one of the 9 factions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 factions. And most factions have multiple warlords you can choose from, and a lot of ways you can mix and match the cards. In every ranked ladder season, and the seasons are about a month, the wins you have combined for that faction will give you a certain number of trophies. Trophies, that's what it is. So this is your total number of trophies here. Now the deck I just played was Space Marine, so I went from flat 2000 to that 2048, and just ranked up a little bit. Another thing you can see here is that your total score, your total ranked position in the ladder, is set by your top 4 factions. So Orc, Space Marine, Eldari, Servants of the Emperor, all of those scores combined give me that 83-14, so that's my current ranked score. And you can see that the other factions are not marked in that score unless they were higher than one of my top 4, then wins and losses in that faction don't count. So you can play with those to get experience and get progression without losing your position in ranked. And I'll talk about that more in a minute here. Then you do get free victory packs as you play through the game. So these are usually, and so I'll just open this one, so that's a victory pack. And flip my cards, ta-da, you get some in-game resources. This little marker notes that I am in a clan, and that clan currently has a bonus up for Eldar. So, and this actually says that at the top here too, what dedication I have. So that's the free card I got as a bonus for being in a clan that has an active dedication. Now, if I play another game and win it, I'll get another free pack in this slot, and these packs can have different rarities. Right now I've got common and rare, and you can see them kind of stat up, and the more rare they are, the longer the cooldown. So I click tap to unlock. That starts a timer, and then that free pack will be available to open in 8 hours. I can pay Plasma to open it sooner. Don't do that. Plasma is very valuable and very rare, but you can if you really, really want to. To talk through the other parts of the screen, I clicked on this trophy count to see my current ranking with all of my factions. I can also click on this banner here to view the ladder. And this shows all the different arenas you play through based on their trophy count. And then on up through here, and then the rewards available as you hit each trophy count. The season's reset about a week ago. This counter here will tell you how much time is left in the current ranked season, how much time you have to rank up this and get the rewards. Most of this, a lot of us who've been playing for a while consider kind of freebies. You'll just get these as you progress, because the real goal is to get to Terra, which is 9,000 trophies combined in your top 4 factions, which then has additional rewards as well. So just being in Terra, you get a bonus set of coins, and then all of your matches will be against other players who are also in Terra. So you get like the really competitive top tier there, the people who are similar level and similar honor rank and are kind of at like a player level that's closer to yours. If you're outside of Terra and you're used to being in Terra for most of the season, you're going to be competing against decks that you should be able to beat relatively easily. But that's relatively being subjective term. At some point later, I'm going to do a top rank ladder video as I'm trying to get that top 6%, which is about where I've topped off, trying to get this free legendary card for the season. But we'll get to that. Just to talk through some of the other screens real quick, that's all about the ranked mode. When you're starting out or just want to complete quests in these factions without risking losing your trophies, so you get one really, really high and you don't want to touch it again because you don't want to lose those points for the season, you can pull this banner to casual mode. And you can play games the same way you would normally, except there are no trophies on the line. On that note of quests, we've got these different tabs here, but this bar on the top is quests. And this will just give you 3 quests that autofill. And then there is, on the mobile version, you'll also see a banner at the top where you can choose to watch an ad to get a free common pack, if you want to. And these give you I have to win 4 battles, so not just play, but actually win. And then this is the experience reward you'll get for completing that quest. Your experience is going to be your level. Let me see where I can find that. Should see that somewhere. I don't see it anywhere. Anyway. Yeah, your level is shown somewhere. After playing for a while, you're going to get to max level, and then, well, let's see what this shows. And then you'll keep competing in that bar to get so-called honor ranks, which have a really high bar to get, so you have to do a lot of quests to get them, but then you will get consistent rewards. So there's never a point where you stop getting rewards for doing those quests, but the incentive gets lower. Because when you first start out, let me actually do some deck building. When you first start out, this deck limit is lower, and you have fewer bodyguard slots. So when you're first starting out, you may have quite a bit fewer options for bodyguards, and you'll have less. So like right now, this is the max deck points, so I've got a total of 200, let's see. Yeah, so I've got a total of 199 points that I can spend between both warlord and bodyguards, and that's where that cost comes in. That is the max. So if you're starting out playing, you won't get that full amount for a little while. It takes some time to unlock that, and that's your biggest incentive to level early on. Then later on, it's just going to kind of happen. You'll just level just by playing. And this summary here actually shows you your total attack values, shows you your total initiative. So you can kind of swap out cards to choose faster cards to get a higher initiative if your deck benefits from moving first, which they all do, but it just depends on how many card sacrifices you want to make for a higher speed. I'm going to talk through a couple more of these tabs. So this may have shown, I mentioned being in a clan, and this shows I am in Warhammer 401k, which is a great clan. And then you can also go to this tab here to view kind of that clan chat. Look for other clans. If you're not a member of one, you can request to join one, and then see the relative standing of your clanmates in the ladder. Ooh, you guys are doing good. I gotta catch up a bit. I'm pretty used to being up high in the clan, but it's good to see the other clanmates doing a good job. Great, folks. Really enjoy this clan. There also are campaigns in addition to your single player. These rotate out from time to time, and they give you free card rewards. So this will show you if you include this type of card in your deck, you'll get a set bonus, and that'll give you chances to get free copies of a card. Really good way to progress early on, and also a great way to progress later on. And that's just based on getting kills. And so when you click on the campaign, it'll show you which faction is playing against which one. So as a player, I'll be playing as Eldar against Necron. These are the prizes I'll get based on my performance in this campaign. So I'm in top 25% right now, and I can get some pretty sweet rewards on this guy. I wanted to mention that because the campaigns are a really, really great way to progress early and later. It's always good to have more free copies of a card, and you get some really good rewards from these campaigns. And it's a little bit more forgiving to do decently well in the campaign than it is in the ladder. So as you're starting out, really recommend starting here. Load up on those free cards and experience points. You can compete quests doing campaigns as well. And then also, if you're in a clan, some of the campaigns are clan campaigns, where your clan's progress will actually give you better rewards, which is a really nice way to have the clan kind of work together. Occasionally there are also PvP campaigns or events where you'll actually go head-to-head with other players live. That's when you get into some of that timing, where you'll have the rare case where a player gets a little salty and will deliberately time out the game, which shows kind of why they chose to have players play against human-made decks and levels, but run by an AI. Like the progression in a game, you can really set, you can take your own pace. You can take long breaks between your moves, not worry about timing out or anything. It's a good bit more relaxed than most games of this type, and you don't have to complete the game live, worrying about someone on the other side waiting for you to make your move, which is nice. I get the incentive to sometimes play against human players, but yeah, as kind of a casual game you play in your spare time, that's a good way to do it. Next up, you have your actual card collection, and this we talked about those 9 factions. You can filter it by faction, or you can filter by some different keywords here, like cost, damage type, trait level, just to see that. And then if it's unfiltered, you can scroll down and look through your whole collection. We looked at a couple rare and common cards. The purple banners are epic, and then the gold banners are legendary. Those are the different card rarities. That controls how many cards you need, how many copies of a card you need per level, and the total trait level of those cards, and then how common the drops are. So legendaries are pretty rare, but there aren't that many legendary cards, so they actually do progress fairly quickly. So you see that they're higher tier. Also, they have different progression tracks, so like this is a rare. You can see kind of that progression, that first trait, and then each of these is a damage buff, and then usually some hit point buff, and you can see his hit points changing there in the top based on how you level these cards up. And then that was a rare, here's a legendary. So legendary and epic cards get 2 traits that they unlock, and you can see the total progression tree is actually quite a bit shorter. So even though they're rarer drops, legendary cards do tend to progress quite quickly once you get them. And you can see that upgrading cards costs in-game resources of gold, and then will actually also give you experience. So as you start out, you should find you level very quickly, because you will be upgrading your cards quite a bit. And the upgrades, of course, cost more as you get higher in level. So like these guys going to level 10 will cost me 160. That's a common card going from level 9 to level 10. Let's see if I have a low one here. As opposed to... trying to find a low-level card. Alright. That's a good one. As opposed to a level 3 common going to level 4, you can see it's considerably cheaper. So as you build up gold playing early on, you don't get the same rewards for it, but you'll be leveling up your cards quite frequently, and that's also going to level up your player level quite quickly. So let's see, last tab is the store. You can be very successful in this game without spending a dime. I want to be really clear about that. If you want to thank the developers, you can look for some bundles to buy once in a while. They've got a really nice starter bundle when you first start the game. I think it's like $6. That's a decent buy. But you don't have to. I want to be really clear about that. They are going to present you with bundles that seem very tempting. Especially in this store, you'll get a random assortment of cards that you can spend in-game resources on that's tailored to your collection, so this is always going to be unique to you. And you can see there's either a gold cost or a plasma cost, and the number of copies varies by rarity of the card. So all of these are common, so I get 4 for 160 gold. This is epic, so I get 1 for 150 plasma. You build up gold very quickly, but plasma is extremely rare, so I would really not spend it unless there's something you really, really, really want, because that's the biggest incentive to spend real money. If you really want to drop money on this game, the best way to do it, of course, is to buy energy. This is a good value, but it's $100. I wouldn't recommend it. But a couple quick pieces here are, when you see these promotional packs at the top, a lot of the time when they introduce a new legendary card, especially a warlord, that pack will include a whole bunch of plasma with it. So if you're going to drop real money on the game, if you must, that's the place I would look for the most, is you look for a pack that releases a new card, a bunch of copies of it, and then a whole bunch of plasma as a reward. That's a really quote-unquote good buy. Those often come with a bunch of gold too, so you get a lot of bang for your buck, as it were. Let's see, I think we covered all the pieces there. Got your ladder rewards, got your play. Let's talk real quickly about deck building. So you edit deck, and then here you choose your warlord, and then when you choose your warlord, the bodyguard options here will change to be in the faction that you can run with that warlord. So these are all the Space Marine cards that I can run with Space Marine warlords. These are all of the Tyranid cards I can run with a Tyranid warlord. Just to kind of show that. And like I said, you've got your total cost you can spend and your total number of slots. Can never have more than 8 bodyguards, can never have less than 2. You have to be able to at least field a full board at the start, so warlord plus 2. And then, like I said, you have a total of 199 points. And some warlords are quite a bit more expensive. So you trade a very powerful warlord, and usually a powerful ability, for less room to deploy, or less room to include scary bodyguards. And that's always a trade-off. Every time you put in a powerful card, it's a big advantage, but it does kind of take away from the total power of the deck, so you have to be careful balancing that. And that, I think, is our introduction. I personally love this game. I play it quite a bit. It's a really nice, casual way to spend time. As a relatively recent dad with kids, it was a really nice way to spend kind of those weird waiting nights where I had a baby in one hand and couldn't do much else. So, hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if there's anything else you'd like to see. And, yeah, happy gaming.